Hi everybody and welcome to the latest Squadpod In Conversation, and this evening we are going to be joined by the lovely Heidi Swain. I'm just going to see whether Heidi is around. Let me just have a look. Let me invite Heidi.
Hello. He's already here. And she is. Hello.
Look at that, and I've got my camera the right way round.
You do. Well done. Hurrah.
A bit. Okay. Yes.
We're on it tonight.
Oh my. I warn you now, there's every possibility that we could be upstaged by my cat because she is in a feisty mood. So, all right, I've just putting that out there now for the how many 11, 12 people who are here already. I'm sorry about
15. Wow, we're flying. Yeah, my cat's in a weird mood today. She's been really naughty. She's my husband's had to go and take, because we live on quite a busy road, and she keeps on going out on the road, and he's had to go and like take her off the road, and they're silaging, so there's tractors going up and down, so she's in disgrace.
You don't want that. You don't want that. I think it's it's a new moon and there's a solar eclipse, so I'm maybe it's something to do with that. I don't know.
No, that's probably it. Yeah. Wow, look, we've got lots of people watching already. We're up to 16 already, Heidi, and we've only just started. Hi, Jill. Well, I'm going to say hello to everybody as I see you. There's lots of people already in, so if I haven't said hello to you, Heidi and I both say hello. Somebody else said that cat is having a weird moment today as well.
Something in the air today, for sure.
There is, yeah, definitely. Yeah, she was. Yeah, I mean, she's feisty at the best of times. Is yours a girl cat?
Yes. Yeah.
Mine too.
I don't know. She's disappeared now because she can hear voices. So maybe we've scared her off. So we might be all right. But if there's strange noises in the background, it's not me. It's the cat. So.
Yeah. We'll take. Yeah. We're absolutely. So hello everybody. We're up to 20 already. So I've got it here. Ta-da! Last time we talked about it, we didn't have to wave, did we? So we've got to see it now. Oh, somebody's just said it's amazing meeting their favourite author. Well, I feel a bit like that when I interview. It's lovely because I get to chat to you as well. It's very exciting.
Yeah, that's very kind. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Oh, and Vicky's just joined, so I just waved to Vicky. Hello, Vicky. So yeah, the Book Lovers Retreat is what we're here to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
And it was really exciting for you, wasn't it? So because it's your first standalone novel.
Yeah.
We'll come on to a little bit more about that later. But What inspired you to write a book about a book?
To write a book about a book, crikey, it was it's quite an intense one, that, isn't it? For the first effort at a standalone, I didn't make it easy for myself at all. No. But so my editor asked last year if I would consider writing standalone, and so I had to find a story. And my daughter and I were binge watching a series on Netflix, and I fell in love with one of the houses featured in this series. And my daughter said to me, "You can rent the house, but it's booked up for a couple of years and it costs thousands to go there on holiday." And I was like, "Oh, really?" Google. And she was right. And this whole idea of going to actually stay somewhere that you've fallen in love with, either in a book or on the screen, it stayed with me. And it was the gift of an idea, really. And I thought, God, it would be fab, if you could go and stay there. And then originally it was just going to be as the book, and then I thought, well, it would be even more exciting if you were staying somewhere that had actually been used as a film set. And the idea just kind of snowballed from there. I think it was one of those one in a career light bulb moments, because I'm planning my next standalone now, and believe me, there is nothing easy about trying to do it again. So I'm seeing Book Lovers as a real sort of gift, a spiritual gift that was just given to me, and I don't know if it's ever going to be repeated, to be honest, but yeah, that's where the inspiration came from. and it was a really quick write once I decided where we were going. If you've heard me ramble on before, you know that I like to get my setting first.
Yeah.
And then I thought, right, who's going to be there? Who's going to go? And I didn't want to make it too simple. You know, it wasn't just going to be 3 friends turned up and have their holiday. We have got the added complication in there, and you know, various other things happening. And yeah, so that was what inspired it, really. Binge watching Netflix. So guys, don't feel guilty about watching telly all day.
No, because it could be your standalone moment.
Exactly.
I mean, I when I first started reading it, I was like, is this real? Is this a real thing that I haven't? So I went onto Google, was Googling Hope Falls to see if I was like, maybe it's some sort of, you know, Hallmark thing, or because I thought it, and then I realised no, it wasn't. I mean, I did find some things called Hope Falls and things on Google, but it wasn't the right one. So yeah. So
No.
did you have to sort of invent the sort of? Did you have to sort of write the book as such, or did you? Yeah, it's quite, because it's almost like 2 stories in one, although it isn't.
Yeah.
But like, we don't want to give too much away, but it is quite the central point, isn't it? Because there's a lot. Yeah.
It is. So it was a case of, I didn't have to write the book, Hope Falls, but I did have to, I wanted to make, I suppose I had the characters for the Book Lovers Retreat stories in my head first. And then I thought, well, how would they relate to the characters in the book? And that's kind of when the book was born. It was tricky. So it's a book within a book, and it both, you know, both stories had to be relatable and relate. And so many people have got in touch and said to me, "Are you going to write Hope Falls now?" And I'm like, "No." And lots of people are saying, "I want to go back. I want to find out if Rachel gets together with Connor and what happens with Tori." And I'm like, "No, don't keep doing this in my poor little brain, because I'm already in series mode, and I've had to let it go. This is, you know, this is definitely a one-off." But we kind of had lots of conversations about how we were going to weave the hopeful story into the Book Lovers Retreat, and that's why I decided to do what I've done with the prologue, just to really make sure that my readers had got that story embedded before they set off with the others. So I want to talk about it, but I don't want to give too much away, because we're only weekends and, you know, people are still reading. So but yeah, it was interesting to be able to weave the 2 stories together. And yeah, it was fun. It was an amazing write. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Because I know when we spoke back in February, we were talking about romance as a genre and things, and it must have been really nerve-wracking. I know I looked at the reviews today when I was doing my research, and they are so overwhelmingly positive, aren't they? I mean, you must be delighted, but it must have been quite nerve-wracking moving away from your sort of tried and tested, you know, your bread and butter, what you do, to something completely different.
Yeah, it has been utterly terrifying. I'm not going to lie about that. And so it was scary when I went from Wimbridge to Nightingale Square, even though I was writing a similar kind of story. So that in itself was scary, but that was nothing compared to this. Absolutely nothing. And I know some readers have kind of that. There's a couple of people who've been in touch and said, I couldn't grasp it. I don't like the fact that we're not going back there and that you're now doing something different. But you know, you have to try these things. If you stay doing the same thing over and over again, I think it would get stale. So it was definitely time for me to try something new. And also, even though the series books can all be read as standalone reads because they feature different main characters, lots of people like to read in publication order.
Yeah.
And now if they're looking at the Wimbridge series, that's a lot of books. That's a lot of books to go through before you get to the current one. So I wanted to give people the opportunity to read a Heidi Swain book in complete isolation from everything else. So but yeah, terrifying, waiting to find out if people were going to like it, and if I could do it. And it's been a bit of a scary week, but as the reviews have been coming in, you know, it's settled my nerves. So
Yeah, I think one of my questions was, which you sort of answered, was what if someone's watching tonight and they're nervous about, going over to your sort of your standalone, because they love the Wimbridge, they love the Nightingale Square. What would you say about trying this one? What would be your sort of your elevator pitch of this book?
I think I would just want people to know that it's me. It's still me,
Yeah.
but it's just slightly different.
Yeah.
And if you imagine every time you're writing a new series, you're always at some point writing book one.
Yeah.
At Winmouth, the Seaside books, we've only had 2 books set there so far, so we're still very close to book one. So there is always that first book, and I like to think that I've still got in here all the things, my kind of trademark things, that sense of friendship. And even though we don't dive fully into the community, you've still got stuff going on in the shop, and you've got stuff happening in the pub, so you have still got that sense of community, although not as deep as you would have in a Wimbridge number 4 book, say, because we've not had the first 3. No. So I would say it's me, guys. You can definitely go in there and you'll find there's some sadness in there, but there are also some laughs. There was one scene in particular that was my absolute favourite to write, and all I will say for anybody who's read it is gill scrambling. That was the most fun to research. Didn't do it myself yet, but yeah. I had such fun writing that, and I love the Lake District. It's a beautiful part of the country, and so it was nice to kind of be able to set a book somewhere else, but again to set somewhere that I absolutely love.
Which leads me nicely into my question about setting, because setting is hugely important to your books, isn't it? So, as we're saying about, Wimbridge and Winmouth and Nightingale Square, all those places, we've become, people who've read your books have become accustomed to them and going back to them. And obviously you know Norfolk well.
Yeah.
And so was it difficult to move to the Lake District, and did you learn anything when you were writing it that you would sort of take to your future books?
I didn't find it a particularly difficult transition, and again I think it was because I picked somewhere that I absolutely loved. I've got really, really fond memories of holidaying there as a child, but also taking my children there as well. So I was seeing it from the point of view of me being little, then them being little, and me being an adult. So it wasn't as hard a transition as it might have been. And actually, that's interesting you ask, have I learned something from that going forward? The book that I'm currently in the process of planning, I was really struggling with it, and I realised just a few days ago why. It was because I hadn't nailed the setting. If I had nailed the setting first, all the other things that are happening would have just fallen into place so much more quickly than they actually have. So when I took a step back, I thought, right, what does this, I can't tell you anything about it because I haven't even had it approved yet. So it's literally just, look, here it is. It's sitting on my hard drive right here. So
exciting.
Once I could see this place in my head, everything else just started to fall into place. So I know some people have their story first, some people have their characters first. For me, I want to know what the place looks like, and then I see who walks in and what they're going to do when they get there. And I think some of that is down to me being a real home bird as well. I love my home, and so that's my surroundings are really important to me. I love where I am. I've been here a year last week, and it's like my little nest, really cozy, and that kind of translates into my writing. I have to get the nest right, and then I can put the chicks in.
Yeah.
Like that. I hope that makes sense.
I think it really does, because I think your books, when you go to the places in your books, that you do really go to them. I think everybody who's watching tonight will, who's read your books will identify with that you actually, you go to the seaside, you go to the Christmas market, you go to the stately home, and I think that isn't just something that happens. It's to do with your writing and how you take us there, along with you. And I guess that, yes, for me, is like one of your fundamentals, isn't it, really? Apart, with friendship and community. But actually, if I was to describe your books, setting would be, you know, I'd be going, yeah, great setting.
Oh, I love that. I love that you've said that, because I'm so pleased that my passion for a sense of place comes across on the page. Because, you know, when we go out and we have these trips and things, you really want to immerse yourself in the experience of it. So yeah, for me, the actual place is as important as what's happening there and who is there. I mean, Winthorpe Hall, anybody who's read the Winthorpe Hall books has messaged me and said, I want to stay in the Rose Room. Yeah. And I want Dorothy to cook for dinner. And they, you know, they know what the Rose Room is. They know what the wishing tree is. So rather than just set a scene somewhere in that house, I want to describe lots of it so people can really picture it, hopefully.
Yeah, well, there's quite a few people. Sorry, I didn't see the person's name who popped up and said that yeah, definitely setting was one of the things that made her love your books. She loved Wimbridge after, somebody else said they loved Wimbridge after finishing Cherry Tree Cafe. So I think, yeah, I think it's sort of, I've got a question later on about escapism, and I think that's part of, you know, that's part of it. We'll come back to that in a bit. So going back to this one, which we're talking about tonight. So we've got the three friends, Tori, Emily, and Rachel, who are originally booked to go on the trip together. And I don't think I'm spoiling anything, because I think it says on the blurb, doesn't it? Yes. So basically, something happens, and they have to have a stand-in, and the stand-in isn't what they think it's going to be, and I think I can say he, because it says he. I think it's difficult, isn't it? But we'll say he, because I think most people know it's he. He has his own story, doesn't he? And his story is very emotional, and I know you've sort of touched on things like that before, but I felt like this was quite a move for you to do like this, without going into too much about the story, but it was quite a personal and emotional subject, wasn't it? Was there a reason why you wanted to write it, or was there something that inspired you to sort of to write his story?
I wanted to give him some real depth. I felt it was really important that we got to the heart of what he was doing there, why he wanted to be there. And that was kind of the most heartbreaking thing that I'm not going to give anything away like you, but I guess it was the most heartbreaking thing that I could think of, really. And knowing that this was a standalone book, it kind of gave me the opportunity to delve just perhaps a little bit deeper into something than the series stories that, and especially like the Christmas books, you've got a certain level of emotional depth in there in terms of trauma, but you don't want it to be overriding. You don't want it to be too much, because that's not what people are picking those books up for. So I kind of felt that the opportunity with this standalone was to just delve a little bit deeper into a bit of heartbreak, really. Bless him. Yeah.
I mean, he's a really interesting character, and I think, you know, I'm not giving away too much, because you know that something is amiss, don't you, quite early on from when he comes into the book. You don't know what, but I sort of really liked how, because Emily doesn't take to him to begin with, does she, at all? She's a bit put out. She's a bit put out because of lots of reasons, which I can't go into without spoiling it. But she's had this vision, hasn't she, of what this trip is going to be like for a long, long time, and it's not really turning out the way she thought it would be.
No. No. And I think there's a lesson for us all there, because I think we all have things in our, you know, standout moments in our lives that we put under a lot of pressure, actually, and we expect to be perfect. And a bit like Chevy Chase in Christmas Vacation, you know, he wants everything to be absolutely perfect, and nothing is. And yet it's still a fantastic Christmas. It's hilarious for us to watch. But this is what I wanted to show, that you know, sometimes things don't turn out the way we expect them to, but it's okay. Yeah.
As we find out when we go through it.
We will have the experience that we are meant to have.
Yeah.
We only have a certain amount of control, and it can be dangerous putting things on too high a pedestal, I think. There's nothing wrong with wanting things to be lovely, but if that starts to be at the expense of you know, everything else, it's not really worth it. Just go with the flow, guys.
Go with the flow. That's Heidi's thing. Everybody, I tell you what, we've got a thread on here appearing about your books being turned into a Sunday night TV series.
Oh, I so want this to happen, guys. If this doesn't happen, I'm gonna not be happy, Bunny. But yeah, a lot of people are saying this Sunday evening viewing. Wouldn't that be something? Although I don't know if I could watch. I think I'd be really scared to see my vision transported onto TV. I don't know, but oh, it would be incredible.
You maybe would have to do you know, like when they have the sort of, you can be sort of the script writer, you know, like you can help with it so that you get an input.
Absolutely.
I think it is hard because you've almost got to hand your baby over, haven't you, to go. I've been watching Daisy Jones and The Sixth, and I think Taylor Reid Jenkins had some input into it, but I think it must be, yeah. Suzanne says she's going to email various TV companies.
Love that. Thank you. I will be behind that campaign. Let's get a hashtag going, whatever it takes. This would be wonderful. Yes. I think trip to Wimbridge before we go to bed on a Sunday evening. Oh, that would just be bliss. And then at the beginning or at the end, I don't know where it comes up, based on the books by Heidi Swain. Yeah. I could live with that. That would be wonderful.
Definitely. You'd have that like right at the front, you know, and then you could have screenplay by so and so, and or you could be like a producer on it.
Yeah.
And
Definitely. I want to be there for the auditions, guys, because that's something that I'm really strongly about. You've got to get the right people and the place. I'd have to do all that touring, wouldn't I, around the country?
Yeah, because you couldn't have it. Yeah, you wouldn't. What it would be awful if they did it and it wasn't how we all imagined it. That would be even more. Would be tragic. Wouldn't it?
It's quite traumatic, isn't it? Even just to think about it. And I had this conversation with Ellie Griffiths. I was at a talk that she did, and people were talking about turning the Dr. Ruth Galloway series into TV drama. And I thought, you know, we could have all got quite aggressive about who we thought Pathbad should be and what he should look like, because in our heads, you know, these characters are very definitely our own vision, aren't they? So
definitely, yeah. Actually, there's quite a few people saying I couldn't watch it if it wasn't true to the books. And it said Heidi needs to help. Heidi needs to help with the script.
Love it. Bless you guys. Thank you.
So out of the so Tori, Emily, and Rachel, they're three really different characters, and we've got in the prologue we're introduced to the three characters, Hope, Laurie, and Rose, and we only sort of have a very brief sort of look at those. But did you want them to sort of mirror, or did you just want them to have, you know, aspects of you know, the sort of characters in them?
Yeah, aspects of, rather than a direct mirror image of. I wanted there to be traits in all of the characters that they, you know, that you would identify with from that little bit of information I give you at the beginning about the three in the Hope Falls book. So and then because it was quite fun then when as we go through the book for the girls to kind of say, oh well, that's, you're definitely being a bit Heather there. Yeah, you know, it was just another way of pulling that story through the thread of the book. So as well as visiting all the lovely settings and everything else. So yeah, so it was I wanted them to mirror, but I didn't want them to be exactly like.
Yeah, because I think it's difficult. I can't talk about it too much, but you're talking about the pedestal of things, and there's a scene, isn't there, in the book where something that's been sort of blown up into a big thing turns out not to be as exciting or as magical, I think the right word is, as people have been led to believe, which I was a bit like, oh, when I read that.
Yeah, because it's what happens, isn't it? You have this idea that something's going to be absolutely amazing, and then when you get there it might not be. So yeah,
it's better sometimes not to have any expectations, isn't it? Because then you can't be disappointed.
Absolutely, exactly. That doesn't mean to say that we've all got to drop our standards, guys, not at all. It's just you know, don't expect everything in life to be perfect, because it isn't, but it will end up how it's meant to. Definitely.
When you sort of we were talking about the escapism, and you know, it's not, I mean, it's not a sort of an accident that your books are escapism, because it's, you know, the characters and the setting and everything about them. But is there a secret, do you think, to writing a novel that transports you somewhere else like yours do, because everybody who's read your books and people who are commenting this evening, you know, that is such a massive factor for people, is that they can go somewhere else, you know, and they escape from whatever it might be in their life, that's, you know, whether it's a bad day at work or worse or whatever, you know, it's really important.
It's important, and it's a huge compliment for you to say that I achieved that, because that's what you want. You want to whisk people away. And I don't think there is any secret to it, other than, for me personally, I have to really believe that I'm there. I have to believe that I can go up that road in Lakeside and go to the pub, and I know what it's going to look like when I get in there. Or I'm going to walk around the square in Wimbridge, and I know where each of the places are, and, you know, the cherry trees in blossom outside the cafe and what have you. So I feel, sorry, cat. Harry Cat. You know, and I'm like, was there someone knocking on the door? But it's like, no, it's just her flying up the stairs with her claws embedded in my car. I have to feel as if I've lost my thread. No, escaping. Right, okay. I have to feel that I've escaped. I have to feel that I am really there. And I think that's the key to it. If you are that absorbed by what you are writing, hopefully that will come across on the page. You know, you live with this book for an awfully long time. It's not just a case of coming up with the plot, writing the first draft, going through the editing process and seeing it published. It's in your head forever, and you have to love that story, because otherwise, if you started writing it and you got bored with it, then your readers aren't going to love it. You have to be involved in it from the very beginning and committed to right to the end. And I think that's what it comes down to. In order to provide that escape, you have got to be utterly immersed in it.
I think the comments coming up, people, and I know from there's a couple that have said, Suzanne and somebody saying that it really helped in the pandemic. And I read The Seaside Escape in the pandemic, and it was quite early on. It had only just come out, hadn't it? It was like beginning of April.
Yeah, well, there was a funny story with Secret Seaside Escape. So the book was scheduled to come out, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 weeks after it was actually published. And we'd all gone into lockdown, and lots of the publishers were pulling their books and saying, this is only going to last a few weeks. We'll pull it off the shelves for now because people won't be going out. We'll publish later in the year.
Yeah.
So my editor and my agent, we had a Zoom call, and everyone was saying, we've got supermarket slots 2 or 3 weeks ahead of the publication date because publishers are pulling out. You've got Seaside in the title. You've got Escape in the title. Yeah. It's just what we all want to do.
Absolutely.
Are we going to go for it and get it out early, or are we going to wait? And I just thought it was on the one hand, it was too good an opportunity to miss, but knowing how invested I was in the story, it just felt like it was something really lovely to be able to hand over and to provide in that moment. I know that probably sounds corny, but that's kind of how it felt. It was giving people the opportunity to escape to exactly where we wanted to go.
Yeah, no, I think it was, yeah. And I think that's what...
That was what the timing came down to. So, you know, instead of stamping my feet and going, this now isn't going to be the publication day that I wanted, because I was going to go rock falling and take lots of pictures of the book and all this, you know, but again, I tried not to do an Emily. I didn't put it on a pedestal. We adapted, and actually it turned out wonderfully. And I love the thought of people being so absorbed by that book that even if only for an hour or two, they were able to forget what was happening in the rest of the world.
I think people sort of, I think for me, I worked in a library for a lot of years. The people who know me know I worked in them for nearly 18 years, and I really appreciate how reading helps people at difficult times in their life. You know, whether that's through grief or, you know, through breakup or whatever. And, you know, it was never really, I've always sort of found it really difficult if people are snobby about what books people read, because, you know, I think it doesn't matter whether you read, you know, what you read. If it helps you, then that's fine. And I think it's really moving looking at the comments tonight, you know, people sort of reading your books and helping them through different bits in their life. And as an author, that must be really sort of humbling and, you know, quite emotional.
It is. It really is. I have lots of people message me, as you say, going through different things in their lives and telling me which book helped them through it. And I find that I'm really, really proud of that. But I can also completely relate to that, because before I was a writer, I was a reader. Yeah. I've always been a reader. So I want to be able to give my readers what other authors have gifted me. So, you know, I've always got, well, at least one book on the go. At the moment, I'm working my way through Veronica Henry's backlist. I hadn't read a lot of Veronica's books until quite recently, and now I'm utterly obsessed. Thank you, Veronica. But yeah, you know, books for all occasions, and being able to help somebody through something not very nice, or not help them through it as such, but help them forget it. You know,
to sort of escape, isn't it? It's that escape again. Yeah,
it is. It really, really is. And I know I love being able to provide that as an author, and I love receiving that from other authors as a reader too.
Yeah, Ronnie's books I read her books as well, and like the Orient Express one I absolutely love, and there's so many of hers that I love. She was before I met you in book form and real, she was one of my go-to authors as well, and still is. And I think it's lovely when you get an author like that you can, you know, that you can go to, like you can go into and you can go, right, I know that I'm going to have a good read here. There's, you know, it doesn't matter what it's about, you know that it's going to be good.
Yeah, and that's where I am with them at the moment. So I'm like looking at the list, rubbing my hands together, because I'm like, oh, this is going to keep me going for ages. So sorry if anyone's waiting for proof quotes. I am trying to get through those too.
So we were talking about, so your characters are quite often creative, aren't they? So we've had cooking, we've had gardening, and in this one we've got Emily, who she does her sort of quilting, clothy sort of thing. Is that something else that you're interested in? Have you, because there is definitely that creative vein through. I know you do like your garden, don't you? And you but was that something new for you? Was it something that you've done yourself, or was that something you had to research?
I'll let you into a secret. All the women in my books have things that I would do things that I would love to be brilliant at. That's what it's all about. You know, I want to be amazing at patchwork. I want to be amazing at baking cakes, you know, and they're all things that I'm really interested in. And yes, I have a go at, and I mostly mess it up, nearly sworn there. I do mess it up. But what I read earlier, what book was I reading? I read earlier that somebody's father said to them, if someone's gone through life and they haven't made any mistakes, they haven't had a life. Because if you're so scared of trying, you don't know when you're going to get it right. And you have to make lots of mistakes in order to get better. So, you know, I do have a crack at things. I'm a pretty good gardener. Gardening is my thing. Not too bad at writing. Seem to be getting the hang of that now.
Yeah, I think you can tick that box.
I hope you can see I've got my RNA award strategically.
I was going to ask you about that in a minute.
So, I'm doing something right there. But in terms of like the sewing and the baking and whatever, my scones are pretty flat and my patchwork's a bit wobbly. But I'm having a go at it. You know. So yeah, I just find things that I love and would want to do for a job if I wasn't writing. And I think that's something else that I try and get the passion behind, a bit like the settings. You know, I want to live there, and hopefully that comes across on the page, and I want to do that job, and hopefully that comes across. So
going back to your characters, I really liked Connor. I thought he was hilarious, but I won't give too much away, but I thought I really liked him. But Jeremy, come on. He's awful. I didn't like him at all. And that was quite I mean, I was trying to think back, and you've had characters again, and maybe this is the standalone series thing. You've had people who have gone through stuff and sort of, you know, maybe had like an epiphany and come out the other side sort of thing, and maybe they're not quite, but he's a wrong one, isn't he?
It was, I mean, in Christmas wish list, yes, we had a guy who wasn't a particularly nice character, The Christmas book, I kept it quite light.
Yeah.
So again, with this particular situation, I was able just to delve in that little bit deeper, and there was a bit more scope there because it was a standalone and it was doing something slightly different. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna say too much. It's really hard, isn't it? A week after the book come out. But he's a rumman. He's a rumman, as they say in these parts. Yes. So yeah, he was quite interesting to write. And I will just say, I never had a negative experience with anybody of that name. Because sometimes people say to me, did you pick that name because of so and so? And I'm like, no, it's pure coincidence. You know, once I've chosen a character's name, even if I picked one of my kids' names, I wouldn't be thinking of them as I was writing the character. No. That name is then, it belongs to the character that I'm writing about. So yeah, I don't want anybody thinking I've got a vendetta against Jeremy, because I haven't. Absolutely haven't.
All the Jeremy's watching. It's okay. You're safe. It's fine. Heidi loves you. Suzanne, she's got a brother called Jeremy, and he's lovely.
I'm sure he's grand, Sue. I'm sure he's grand.
I think that it's always difficult, isn't it, with names? Because there's always going to be someone, you know, who knows somebody. It's like when you're choosing baby names, isn't it? And you like, you know, you and your partner, and you go, oh, I really like the name so and so, and they go, oh no, I went to school with somebody called that. No, I'm not having that.
Yeah, exactly. And I do, you know, you have to kind of work around that. Choosing names is sometimes they will just come and they're perfect, and sometimes you really, really have to work at them. And you know when you've got it right, because suddenly that person couldn't possibly be anybody else. And that's the same I find with the planning. You know, 6 weeks ago, the book that I'm planning and I've got in my head now didn't even exist. And now, because I'm moving forward with the planning and I've got a very good sense of the setting and the story, it's like, how was that not a thing? How was it not already there? How could that have just been born in the last 6 weeks? And it's the same with the character names. Once they have got that name, I'm really reluctant to change it, you know, and it's got to be right.
Do you picture them? Because I know some authors don't have any idea of what their characters look like. Do you, particularly, I guess, in the sort of the Windbridge and the Nightingale Square, when you return, is that easier to sort of picture them, or do you always sort of like, is that part of the process?
Yeah, I think it just kind of happens. I had a very strong idea of what everybody in Book Lovers looked like. And so well done on being a fan of Connor, because yeah, he's a lovely chap.
He's lovely. He's a lovely chap.
Yeah. So when I go back anywhere now, even if I couldn't pin their features down as to like looking at myself in the mirror, you know, I know Lizzie's got her wild red hair, and I know when Gemma stands next to her how they look together. So it's not necessarily the tiny little details. No. Who's got a scar on their elbow from falling off their bike. It's not down to that kind of detail, but I can see them all.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. And with the three girls in Book Lovers, so Tori, Emily, and Rachel, for people who haven't read it, did you have a favourite to write, or did you like them all? I actually really liked Tori. I thought I quite. Although we didn't see, well, yeah, I'm not going to say too much, but yeah, I quite liked her. She was quite.
I'm really surprised by that. A lot of people have said to me, "Oh, I really like Tori," and I did wonder how she was going to go down, given her, you know, everything she's got going on.
Yeah.
I don't think I did have a favourite. I liked them all for different. I like different bits of them, you know. I liked them all. They were all interesting to write. I wanted to kind of give Emily the most character growth. Obviously, you don't want your main character to be the same person at the end as she is at the beginning, because of the, you know, what's the point? So yeah, they were all interesting. I enjoyed writing them all. Yeah, and I felt that was a good mix. The three friends, and trying to make them as different as possible. But with this
very different, aren't they?
Sorry?
They're very different.
They're very, very different, and so they were bonded over the love of the book and the film.
Yeah.
But in every other possible way, they are really, really quite different, especially touring. But you'll have to read the book to find out why.
You will.
That's all I'm saying.
You will. I think somebody said that it's 99p on ebook at the moment, but if any.
That Secret Seaside Escape. It is not.
Okay, sorry, I must have missed that one. It's not this one then. I think, yeah, I mean, it must be. So when I first started reading you all those years ago, you didn't see your books. Well, not down here. I didn't see your books in supermarkets. Now I go in. That must be amazing. I mean, I don't know if that was the case with you as well, but it must be amazing just, poddling to Tesco's or wherever you go, and Sainsbury's and other supermarkets that we can mention, because actually I can say what I like because I'm not working for anybody, so I don't have to say about other supermarkets that are available. But that must be amazing. It must be amazing for you.
It's incredible. The first book that I saw on the shelf was Summer at Skylark Farm, which was my second published book. Cherry Tree Cafe was first, but that came out as an ebook only originally. And then Sainsbury's said they would take copies of Summer at Skylark Farm in print. So that was actually the first book that I saw on the shelf. And my daughter and I went into Norwich, and we walked into the Sainsbury's, and it was on the shelf next to J.K. Rowling's The Cursed Child. That had come out at the same sort of time, and it was, whoa. I needed to go and have a slice of cake and a cup of tea, to be honest, because it was incredible. It was amazing. And then on Friday, my son came and stayed with me for the weekend, so I had somebody with me who could take the photograph rather than me trying to juggle my phone and hold the book up. So we popped down to, we've got a Tesco's not far up the road here, and it was still exactly the same thrill. I think if it got old and I wasn't bothered, then I'm in the wrong job. But it's still as exciting to go, oh, look at them all, here we are, take a picture. And then I like to go along and go, I know her, I know him, I know her, I know her. That was the loveliest feeling too, and taking pictures for other people. That's, it's really exciting. And my agent this morning, she's been at the London Book Fair all week, and she was at St Pancras this morning, and W.H. Smith Travel have taken so many copies of this book, it's incredible. And she sent me, she had to take 2 shelfies because they were on 2 different shelves. And it just looked gorgeous in there. It was amazing. And it's like, yeah, that's still as exciting as it was however many years ago now it was when I saw Skylark Farm.
That's amazing. I think it's really lovely. I mean, they always went really well in libraries. They were always, you always went, if you think I'll go and have a look, and there was very rarely any on the shelf because they were always out. But it's a perfect holiday read, isn't it? So whether you're going, I've seen some people saying they're saving it until they go on holiday in July, and so it's perfect whether it's on a sunny beach holiday or a cozy cottage or a caravan, or if you're having a staycation and you're sitting at home on the sofa for a week. What do you like to read on holiday?
Oh, well, it's funny you should ask that, because when I had a little look back in my diary a couple of weeks ago, I realised I hadn't had a holiday since 2016.
Oh.
That was a research trip for 5 days where I stayed in a Airstream caravan while I was researching Cuckoo Cottage, Monday to Friday, just in Suffolk over the border. So it's a very long time since I have had a holiday, and I've got plans afoot to rectify that.
Good.
But I don't think I have a specific, even when I do take a holiday, I don't think I'll have a specific kind of read that I want to take with me. If I'm having a bit of a break, sometimes I'll go for something familiar, actually, something that I have read before. I often dip in and out of the Ruth Galloway series, if I want some crime. Trisha Ashley, if you looked at my 10 books, my last 10 books that I've read, you will always find at least a couple of Trisha's in there. So I tend to predominantly read the kind of books that I like to write.
Yeah,
I think that's that's it for me, really. But when I've had my holiday this year, I'll post what I've been reading.
Please do.
That'll be nice. Yeah, that'll be nice to share. And so I can't really answer that one yet because I'm very overdue a holiday. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, I mean, I haven't had one for, well, I've had a few days, like a day, a few days away, but I haven't had a proper holiday since before the pandemic. So would that be 2019?
Yeah.
So yeah. But I mean, I like a good selection. I like a bit of crime, a bit of yours, bit of everything. And it depends also what's out. I quite often like to take a hype book, what I call a hype book, but one that's like everybody's read or everybody's talking about. And so yes, so my Cornish bookshelf says she's always interested in what books authors read. I am too. I find it really interesting to find out what you read, and it's quite often people will read what they write, but then some people will read the complete opposite. Like, so you said you read crime, and some people can't read their own genre when they're writing because they're worried about osmosis, which I guess is but yeah, I think it's interesting. Somebody saying they highly recommend Jersey as a holiday destination.
Oh, yeah, that's not too far, but yeah, lovely. Thank you for that. I always post a recommended read every month on my newsletter.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes
for that on your website, can't we? So
yes, and via my blog as well. Oh, it's the little box is actually on my blog. So if you just type into a search engine Heidi Swain blog, and it will bring it up, and you look at the web version of that, and there's a little newsletter sign up box. And so there are certain things that I keep in that format of the newsletter. It's always the same every month. So I have an author Q&A. I have a recommended read, and I do a little, it's called a Don't Think, Just Write. It's a little writing exercise for people who want to do some creative writing of their own. So they're always the same things that appear in that newsletter every month.
Right.
And it's really good to be able to share books that I love. Sometimes it might be like a child classic, like Darling Buds of May, Wind in the Willows, things like that I read according to the seasons every year. Sometimes I'll have had a proof that I've absolutely fallen in love with. So even though you've got to wait a little while for it to come out, it's one to get on pre-order.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I really enjoy doing that. There are so many books in the world, and it's really amazing to have the opportunity to share the ones that you love.
Definitely. And actually so I'm going to ask you that, like, a question that you're probably going to hate me asking, and you might not even give me the answer, is do you have a favorite one of your books?
Out of all of mine? Yeah, then. She turns around and has a look on the shelf. Do you know, I love them all, but for different reasons.
It's like asking which is your favourite child, isn't it?
It is. It's like the Summer Fair, which came out this time last year, which is one of the Nightingale Square books. I had so much fun writing those care home characters. So that was a total
lovely.
They were so naughty. But I think if I had to pick one, and you're really making this hard, I think it would have to be Sleigh Rides and Silver Bells.
Oh yeah, that is a good one. That is. Yeah, I love the Christmas ones. That I'm going to come on to Christmas in a minute. I know it's only April, but
that book gave me fulfilled one of my biggest dreams, because it got me onto the Sunday Times bestseller chart. I'm looking up here because I have got a framed print of the actual Sunday Times list with the book cover next to it, which my editor at the time had made up for me. And that book got to number 5 on the Sunday Times bestseller, and that was amazing. And then last Christmas, it's not which is my favourite book, which is my favourite setting, because it was Winthorpe Hall. Again, it was Winthorpe Hall that got me this gorgeous trophy. So there's some magic about that place. There really is. So yeah, maybe it's Winthorpe Hall rather than a specific book. That's cheating. I don't care.
See, I love The Seaside Escape, but I think I also I think Winthorpe Hall is my favourite. I love the characters. I love going back to those characters, and I love how they've become like part. It is like putting on a nice pair of comfy slippers and going back in there.
I sometimes this would sound totally bonkers, but I sometimes imagine myself staying at that hall.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I imagine myself staying in the Rose Room and having breakfast with Dorothy and going up in the cherry picker, you know, and doing all those things. And I think that's just that's my own escapism, isn't it? So that's where I need to go on holiday, guys. So if I disappear for a couple of weeks, I have tracked down Winthrop Hall.
There's a lot of people saying which ones. There's a few Christmassy ones. Cuckoo. Oh, it's gone now. Yeah, the cuckoo. Was it cuckoo and got it over here? Is it coming
Cottage?
I can't get my words out. Cuckoo cottage. Get my teeth in. I've got a few behind me. So yes, talking about your award. So for people who don't know, Heidi won the RNA author of, was it author of the year?
The exact title is, and I've got the framed certificate on my wall. I'm getting very good at this. I used to just kind of like hide my light a little bit, but I had the certificate in an envelope and I thought, right, it's going in a frame. So, winner of the Popular Romantic Fiction Award for 2023. So this was the award that was voted for by bloggers, librarians, a whole panel of readers, and that's the award that gets announced early. So I knew that I had won that award before Christmas, and I wasn't allowed to tell a single soul until the 31st of January. And it nearly finished me off sitting on that news. I didn't even tell my editor and my agent, because the RNA were very specific in their email. It's like, right, we've got an embargo and you're not allowed to tell anybody, blah, blah, blah. So, and not even the people who were nominated in the other categories, they couldn't share it either. So the day the news broke, I got phone calls from my email and editor, so my agent and editor, and my agent was shouting down the phone that she was so excited, but in the next breath she was like, but I can't believe you didn't tell me. And I was like, why didn't you tell me? You've known all this time. And I was like, I was so scared I was going to jinx it. He said I wasn't allowed to tell anybody, so I didn't tell anybody. So there we go. So I sat on that news all that time, and then we had the award ceremony in March, and it was phenomenal. It's an amazing night.
So good. I was lucky enough to be nominated as Librarian of the Year a couple of years ago. I didn't win, but it was still fab. And I had exactly the same. I wasn't allowed to tell my work.
Yeah.
Like you say, when the news came out, they were like, why didn't you say it? I was like, I wasn't allowed to.
Didn't want to jinx it. They crossed me off the list. I have been. I've had a couple of other books nominated before. So, Cuckoo Cottage was the first one, and Poppy's Recipe for Life. They were both nominated for other categories in previous years. And again, it was the same drill. Not allowed to tell anybody. I think this time it was more nerve-wracking because I knew I had one. So I also knew I was going to have to get up on that stage and give us.
But they're all lovely, aren't they? So it's not, it's, yeah.
It was, I'm so nervous about doing it, but actually when I got up there on the stage and lovely Peter Davison gave me my trophy.
Doctor Who that was, I don't know, number 8 or 9 or something like that.
I just go picturing him with his hand up a cow's backside because I was a huge James Cameron. Anyway, I digress. He was absolutely lovely. We chatted for a minute. I have absolutely no clue what he said to me and no idea as to what I said to him because I was just so overcome. But when it came to give my speech, so I had printed it out and then I had pasted it into like a notelet. So it was rigid in my hands. So when my hands were shaking, you couldn't see too much. It wasn't just a bit of paper. And when I looked out over this whole, this huge venue full of people, I knew practically everyone in the room, and it was wonderful. And there was no need to be nervous. It was amazing. Posh frock night, and fab. Really enjoyed it.
And then you've got lovely awards put behind you on your bookshelf.
It's absolutely beautiful. It weighs a ton.
Yeah,
my suitcase. I'm dragging my suitcase around the next day. But yeah, thrilled, absolutely thrilled, and so shocked. And the fact that it was another Winthrop Hall book, just amazing, love it.
So coming back to Winthrop Hall and Christmas, even though it's only April, but I'm sure nobody will blame me for asking. Can you tell us anything about your Christmas book, Heidi?
No, I can't. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I will tell you, the first draft is written.
Yeah.
It's currently with my agent and my editor, and we were going to start on the second draft this week, but because of the book fair and everything, I'm still planning the standalone. And a standalone, I am finding, takes much longer to plan than a series book, and I think it's because you haven't. If I say to myself, right, we're going back to Wimbridge is there, it's ready and waiting.
Yeah, it's all
whereas
done.
with a standalone, there's a desert and you've got to build on that. So I was kind of like, we have got a title. Can you? You might not be shocked. So you might think, well, yeah, you should have a title. But I am so rubbish at titles. So to have a title at this stage is amazing.
You come up with your own?
No.
No,
I'm not going to take credit for that one. No, it's more often than not. It's Andrea. She has just put. Did it have an extra special polish earlier, Heidi? It did, Andrea. Let me quickly tell you the story. At the awards ceremony, I was sitting down, just having a moment, and I was polishing the trophy because my hands were really hot on my dress. And my mum messaged me and said, because she was with me when I went to buy the dress, she said, I can't believe you're polishing that, using that dress as polishing cloth when it got all that money. So Andrea very kindly sent me through the post. And I have it to hand, Andrea, a polishing cloth specifically for my trophy, so I no longer have to use the rock. So, thank you, Andrea. It is sparkling clean. So yes, so there we go. It did have an
happy mum now for not polishing your award on your dress.
Using that dress as a polishing cloth. So yes, so we have a title. The book is written. I had a very quick email from my editor. I think she just knew that I needed my nerves settling because it's always nerve-wracking. Yeah. There were two characters in particular who she's absolutely fallen in love with. So yes, that's very exciting. And I think I should get it back to start working on the second draft next week. Hopefully there won't be too much work to do. I like to put in a tidy first draft, so it's never a rewrite or anything. She says, touch me every bit of wood that she can reach, because, first time for everything. Well, there's another bit, have a go at that. So I can tell you it's a setting book. It's not a standalone. We are going back to somewhere we have been before. But other than that, I can't tell you a darn thing. I'm so sorry. I wanted to give you an exclusive, but...
Well, maybe we'll have a chat about whether you can come on and tell us when we know, like, when it's coming out, we can book in a date for maybe a Christmassy chat.
That would be wonderful. I would love that. I'm hoping it won't be too much longer before I can reveal it. And sometimes I put exclusive news in the newsletter, so the word will be out soon. But for the moment,
does it normally come out September time when the
October.
October?
It's October. Yeah, it's generally October and April. Although the summer fair last year didn't come out until May. Which was probably a good thing because I had moved house and I didn't have internet for a month. It was hellish.
Oh yeah, that would be awful. I don't know how I'd cope.
My phone bill was through the roof because I was using up all my mobile data because you're trying to promote a book that's going to come out and had no internet. It was awful. And I had COVID on publication day, so it's bring it on.
Ian's saying it will definitely have a happy ending even if you don't know where it's set. It will, absolutely. That's a
more than one. You never know.
May well do. So, what is it? Book 16?
No,
15?
I think I've just written number 17 actually.
17.
That's the Christmas one, yeah. So book lovers, I think, might be 16. Is that right? Shall we have a count?
Have you got them all? I've only got a few. What if I got about 8 here? Some of them on my Kindle.
Right. 17. So I've written number 18 and I'm planning number 19. Is that really right? How's that happened? Who's done that?
We're having a 20th anniversary special soon.
Bonkers. fabulous. Okay, that just, yeah. Wow. That makes me think, yeah, you really do need a holiday.
I think you do. I think you've earned one. So for anybody who's just joined us, we've been chatting, and I looked at the time, and we're done nearly an hour, and I can't believe that, because we
Really?
just
Again.
I know. So there's loads of people, Heidi, saying how they're your favourite author. You're their favourite author, and yeah, Ian saying you're going to have a huge party for 20. I think, yeah.
I might have to buy the village hall, really, get some
You
bunting
will.
and some cakes.
Or you go on like a cruise or something, you know, like do something really sort of wild and.
Take everyone with me. Swaynet bus. That's what I need.
Like a Swaynet charabanc.
That sounds about right. Yeah, yeah.
So Heidi's Book Lovers Retreat, da-da, she's got one too. We can do a double. If anybody wants to take a picky, actually, can I take a picky? Let me just see if I can. Picky. It's working? It's not working. I've got a thingy. Don't think it's going to work. Anybody taking a picture?
Yeah. I didn't want to blink or stop smiling or do anything then. I always got my mouth open and my eyes shut on these things, but never mind.
It's out now in all good bookshops, supermarkets, online, ebook, Audible. Got an Audible?
Yeah, yes, yeah. All
And
came out at the
libraries.
same time.
And all good libraries will have it on to order. Or thank you, Sue's taking a photo. Thank you, Sue. So yeah, so if you haven't read it, if you're nervous, as Heidi said, you've got to try other things, and I can definitely recommend it. And I know lots of other people who are watching this evening will also recommend it. So thank you for joining us again. It's been great. The Squad Pod are a huge fan of the Heidi books. I know there's a few of us watching this, or a few of them watching this evening. I've seen different ones popping up. So yes, thank you for joining us, and we'll have a chat about seeing what's happening in October when it happens. And if you
thank you for inviting me.
That's okay. Okay, and if you want to sign up to Heidi's newsletter, what's your email or your address?
So
your web address.
Go through the website, which is just heidiswain.co.uk, or you can Google to find the blog, and the blog is where the actual little sign up box is, and you just submit your email, and then I think you have to confirm receipt when you get the welcome email, and then you should be on the list.
Thank you, everybody, for your lovely comments and your questions. And thank you, Heidi, for being such a fab guest, as usual. And I hope everybody enjoys reading the Book Lovers Retreat as much as I did, and everybody else who's read it. And if you haven't read a Heidi book, then I suggest you go and find one right away.
That's an endorsement and a half. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. I'm still going.